Hey guys, in this video we'll be having a look at the Handing Magic L602 ultralight casting rod. I'll tell you about my experience with it and I'll give you my opinion on whether it's a good buy or not. Let's have a look. So for the sake of full transparency, I did not buy this rod. Handing sent this rod to me as part of a care package. But I hope to give you my honest opinion and show you why I feel the way I do about it. Let's start with the technical stuff. It is a 6-foot rod, so it measures 182 centimeters from the rod butt to the tip of the rod. And if you're interested in that number, it's 160.5 centimeters from the reel seat to the tip of the rod. It does come with Fuji guides. I'll show you a close-up of those now as well. There are 9 guides in total, so that would be 8 guides and 1 tip guide. It is a cork gripped handle. You will notice there is a faint seam in the cork over there, so I suspect it is a foam backing with a cork veneer. It does have a reinforced higher density cork cap at the back, which I'm a fan of, so it doesn't slip if you stand it up on hard surfaces. The reel seat is a plastic piece here that does have a kind of a faux wood print on it. I don't love the faux wood print, but that section is very comfortable when palming. All the accent pieces on here are aluminium. That's aluminium. This guy is aluminium all the way through, and there's a little bit of knurling there. The reel seat does click if you rotate this. Now this is going to be a dividing point. Some people are going to love this, some people are going to hate it. I don't really mind because you tighten your reel once at the beginning of the day and then you don't really notice it otherwise. But that is something to note. It might annoy some people. You will see that they have a clear enamel here with a little bit of color accent on it, which does look quite pretty. And then all the way up to the very first guide, you will notice that there is a cross wrap to add a little bit more backbone to that. And then from the first guide onwards, it's just a more traditional carbon fiber wrap. Now the rod is rated for 1.5 to 9 grams and rated for 1 to 4 pound line. Not that we really bother with rating that much, but the 1.5 grams to 9 grams is somewhat relevant for what we're going to be doing later. And you will note that it does use micro guides. Let me just get that into shot here quickly. It does use micro guides, and they are particularly tiny. They measure at 1.8 millimeters internal diameter. This also gives you a look at the epoxy job there, which on my copy is quite neat and quite well executed. It looks quite well done there. And of course they are all Fuji guides, and they have the traditional carbon fiber wrap throughout this. I do like the semi-holographic look of a plain blank carbon fiber. They do have a thin epoxy coating over this, so it isn't particularly rough, but you do still feel the carbon fiber texture on that. Now when you throw the rod on a scale, it tips the scale at 93 grams, which is particularly light considering the fact that it is a full handle, it's not a split grip. And if you throw a reel on there, a standard size BFS reel, it should tip the scale at somewhere between 200 and 230 grams, which makes for a very light combo for a 6-foot rod. All right, let's get started with the testing. First up, we have some static load testing, where I applied a 300 gram weight to the tip of the rod, mounted at 45 degrees. Now I specifically used 300 grams here because that's the amount of weight I needed to get the rod tip level with the reel seat mounted at 45 degrees. Now, as you can see here, I'll flex it a little bit first, and then we will load it fully so that the rod tip is all the way down. And you'll see that the rod is indeed a fast action rod with a fair amount of backbone halfway through. Next up, we did some casting distance testing. I specifically used 1.6, 2.6, and 3.6 grams as weight because I thought that approximated a good spectrum for BFS. So the average casting distance for 1.6 grams was 19.7 meters. The average casting distance for 2.6 grams was 23.02 meters. And the average casting distance for 3.6 grams was 24.52 meters. And lastly, we did some dynamic load testing, which is basically just strapping a GoPro to the rod as we cast, so we can both see how the rod deforms as we cast, and also see how quickly the rod recovers after casting that weight. So here we used a 3.6 gram weight to see how quickly it would recover. Now let's have a look at some underwater footage while we discuss my experience with the rod. I used the rod for 3 different applications. My first day out with it, I fished small crankbaits. Now those have hooks usually size 10 through to size 6, and the rod does have enough flex in the backbone to allow me to keep small treble hooks pinned, keep enough pressure on there, and not be worried about tearing those out at all. Now, sensitivity is not important in fishing cranks, so on my next day out, I specifically used it to fish 2-inch and 3-inch soft plastics. Weightless soft plastics I would cast in between grass and then let them sink. Now, their sensitivity was absolutely paramount because you need to know when a fish picks it up so you can set the hook. The rod was more than capable enough to allow me to feel everything I needed to feel, and I didn't miss a single fish that day. On my third trip out with MagicL, I used a small 1.5 gram jig head, and I fished a lot of bottom contact with it. So there, it was important for me to be able to feel the composition of the bottom to know that I'm fishing the right areas. And of course, it was important for me to feel whenever a fish picked up the bait. On my third day out with MagicL, I used it with a small jig head, so there was a lot of bottom contact involved there, and it's important for me to feel the difference between gravel, sand, and mud, so that I know that I'm fishing the right areas. And of course, it's just as important to be able to feel bites. Now, the rod performed admirably there. In fact, it made me very, very happy. It did very well in that application, fishing small jig heads, bouncing it on the bottom and retrieving it that way. So the rod quite impressed me, specifically with jig heads. So would I recommend the Handing Magic L? I have to say the rod impressed me from the onset. I took it out of the packing tube, and the bag it came in was padded and very high quality. I was impressed. I took it out of the bag. The finishing, the logo, the quality of how it was assembled, what the blank looks like, how the guides are applied, the fact that they're Fuji guides, and how comfortable the grip was, definitely impressed me. Then I took it out and I fished it. It does well enough with crankbaits to load up and keep fish pinned. Though it is a fast action rod, it handles crankbaits well enough that I'm not concerned throwing cranks on it. It handles soft plastics well enough that I throw plastics all day on it because it's more than sensitive enough to feel bottom composition, so I'm happy using it for jig heads and soft plastics. And I can fish it all day because it weighs only 92 or 93 grams and it's very comfortable. So with those things considered, I have to say it looks quality, it feels quality, and it fishes very, very well. If you need to carry only one rod and you're happy with a 6-foot length, I think this is an exceptional rod to cover you for everything you need in a day of fishing. So would I recommend it? Yes, absolutely. I definitely buy this rod again, especially at the price point of around $40. It is a bargain for that price. I hope you liked this review. I hope you find it helpful. If it was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you'd like this sort of content, feel free to subscribe. There will be more coming. Thanks for joining me.